Welcome to Now is the Time. My name is Trinidad Black.
And I'm Janelle Turner.
And we are here to get into it with you today. And let's just drop it like it's hot.
Hot, hot, hot.
I'm going to kick it off with a prayer that will just open us up. So let's kick it. Spirit of the living God, we thank you, we praise you, we worship you, we magnify you. We thank you for this time. We thank you for allowing us to be in your presence and also filling us up with your presence, filling us up with you, God, so that we're able to be here to talk about said topic, about how we create safe places. Are we a safe place? Are we in communities that are safe for us? But also, what responsibilities as a partaker of these places? And how are we doing it? God, open our mouths. We open our mouths. You fill it. And I just pray, Lord, that you will have your way, cover this conversation, and just go before us and prepare the hearts of folks that are listening, watching, that they'll be ready for this. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Yes. So just to dive in, we've had several conversations about what is loneliness, what drives that emotion or that feeling, and also where does that come from, and can you be lonely in a crowd? Can you be lonely in community? And what are we looking for in that community? But then we've also talked about how do we contribute to that community, and how do we receive from that community? And then we went into
and you're saying we talked about, these are things that we've talked about offline or
offline.
Yeah.
Not
I
on the podcast.
I don't like that.
Not on the podcast.
These are things that we talk about just in life, on the phone, just
in life.
Just a random Tuesday,
just a random Tuesday. And I wanted to bring that to the podcast so that we can discuss, because I believe our community is a part of our community, right? They're nowbies. Some of y'all have joined our Patreon. Thank you for joining Patreon, and you've interacted with us in a personal way. And so now it's like, once we recognize that people are coming and interacting, they're, some people are satisfied or happy, and others want more.
Yeah.
And so I'd love us to navigate how even getting to that place of understanding that I'm not completely satisfied within the community that I'm in. And then also recognizing, pulling ourselves back enough to recognize that I'm in a great community, but I really haven't showed up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One of the first things I think of is just having a real open and honest conversation with yourself, and an evaluation of how open you have been to letting people in, to the real sides and parts of you, because we have our representatives of how we show up to the world, to the majority. But then I think that there's a layer and a kind of like a coat and a jacket that we take off with the people that we allow into our community. And I think that there was a point in my life where I had to look up and realize I had not let people in a real way. From stemming from friendship hurt.
What about what is friendship hurt?
So for me, I was in a best friend clique. It was 3 of us, 3 girls. And we were just thick as thieves. Every time we talked on the phone, it was always a 3-way call. It was just always us. And then there came a point in time where they straight up just abandoned me. They straight up, and it was just a situation where I can't even there was no, I still don't reconcile what actually happened. But I decided, I got with my ex-husband, at the time he was my boyfriend, and I don't know, they didn't like him, or it was something like that. And they just decided to stop talking to me. And at that point, I just shut down from women, and I became one of those girls who were just I don't really rock with females like that. We've always heard women say that I
have more guy friends than girlfriends.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that. And I think that I was like I'm cool. Like I'm cool off of people. Like I you know, put up a wall, and it wasn't like, oh, here's myself building up this wall. It was unconscious. Like I wasn't, at that time, I wasn't saying like, I'm not letting people in. But over time I realized and looked up and I realized I hadn't let people in. And I had been in a place where I was like friendly and nice to people, and people wanted to like be like, get to know me better, but I would just like keep them there, keep them at an arm's distance. It's almost like reminiscent. It kind of reminds me of like work friendships. Like, you know, like you're cool at work, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah. 'Cause
Like you don't really know me like
work,
that.
We work together, so I can't fully disclose
But
myself.
I was doing that with people in non-work settings. And like, and then, you know, in previous episodes, we talked about like going through infidelity and all of that. And then that added another layer to it, because then I didn't trust women like that. Cause like, I didn't know, like I just didn't want you to be close to me, because that meant that you could be close to my man too. And then I'm not even trying to evaluate whether you want my man. Like, and I'm just now coming to the place right now of realizing that that layer of hurt in my relationship impacted my ability to open myself up to women in friendships. But
some people would say that was wise.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I definitely would subscribe to like, yeah, you don't bring everybody to your house. You don't bring, maybe everybody doesn't need to meet your husband. You know, I think there is some wisdom in that, but there is still a major guard up. Being that I had those other elements of keeping people away, adding that on kind of put me in a place where I was isolated. And I had like my core friends, and I was just kind of had this like demeanor, like I'm good. Like I got friends. Like I don't need new friends. I was going into new places being like, I got friends. Like I really, like, it's nice to meet y'all, but like, I'm cool.
No new friends.
You know, that's a whole song and a whole movement that people like, no, for real, hashtag no new friends.
That's
like
true.
That was like a whole movement.
That's true.
But then it's like, there's a point where you realize there's a lot of hurt in that. There's a lot of hurt in just like being in that place of being no new friends. Because God wants us to be in community with people. There's so much we can learn from one another. And there's so much beauty in being in community. So yeah, that was really long, and I don't know if I went down the right roads, but that's where I forgot what the initial question was.
I don't even remember the initial question. But to talk about community specifically, I think that community is vital to our growth.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we grow up in an education system where we're put in a classroom.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the education system is right or good in America.
Girl.
But at the same time, I believe that community is important to us developing and growing. And I believe in season 1, I talked about how I read a book about humility, and he talks about like humility is not in a bubble.
Yeah.
Like it's exercised in community.
Yeah.
And so you can't be like, I'm humble, and you never leave your house. Like you're not interacting with anybody to either fact check that or not fact check it.
Right.
And so when the Bible also talks about iron sharpens iron. And so if we're in community and if we're together and we're growing and we're learning, like there is going to be some sharpening.
Yes.
There's going to be some hurting. There's going to be some
accountability.
Yeah. But I'm not going to deny or, you know, act like we're not in environments where these communities are broken.
Yeah.
Or what's the word I want to use? Like not healthy. And so I was even thinking of communities that I've put myself in because a season in my life, I wanted community, right? When I moved to California after divorce, I joined a community, and I'm not going to name it because everybody will know. But if you know, you know. And we were out in these streets at all times. And we all worked in tech or gaming or somewhere in the Silicon Valley, and we're all young with money, like because we made that, we got the equity, you know, we get with the Googles, with the Facebooks. And so money wasn't an issue. So it's like, oh, let's go on this trip. Let's go on this hike. Let's do this. But even within that community, it was like you have single women, you have a couple of couples, you know, people who date and this and that. And it's like, is this place safe?
Yeah.
And then you can literally run through the whole community if you're looking for a man. You're just testing and dating and trying and seeing what's going on. But if you're not, it's like then, and people are coming at you, it's like, oh, I'm just chilling. I don't need that. But at the same time, you want companionship.
Yeah.
You want to know that. And this was a place where a lot of folks who are not from the Bay Area are coming in for work and would literally, you know, you're new to this.
Yeah.
So and we all lived in nice communities. So we're having the pool parties, we're having the barbecues, we're doing the get-togethers, but that just breeds a whole lot of
yeah, that's
you know.
a lot.
And what's fun is that some relationships have been birthed from that. Like some folks are married with kids. Well, I don't know if they're married yet, but they're with kids. Like I think some are married with kids, but like some are just, you know, committed to each other. And I just think about that season in my life, and coming out of a divorce, I wanted a community of folks that I could hang out with that necessarily didn't make me feel like I'm broken goods,
right,
or that I'm, you know, I just wanted to hang out with people who didn't even know my past.
Right.
And so, but with that came just a lot of realizations of how fickle and how fake and how not safe sometimes these spaces can be.
Right.
And so I just was thinking about when I had that realization, how I reacted. And I realized that I needed to focus on me. And so, because y'all have been hearing this all season long, recovering people pleaser here. That's more new. But I was a people pleaser. So I had the best parties where I'm like legit, like during the holidays, I'm making coquito. Like we having, you know, everybody watching. Like, I think this is when, I don't remember what show was on, but like it might have been, what's the one with like winter's coming? What's that show? The one with like what is it called? Winter is coming. It was like the kings and the queens, and anyways, it was like one of those seasons that was forever. And so like we had watch party. We did all the things. I say we, but I did all the things. And I invited people into my space, you know, and the development that I lived in had like multiple pools, so we did multiple different things. And I realized that in the midst of that, like certain people I could see were safe. And what I mean by that is like in those environments, you could find your people if you're looking, right? Like certain folks, like I'd have a whole party and then like everybody's out and like you'd see like two people helping clean up, or you know, like, and then we'd have a conversation and realize like they're from a city that I'm from, or they have a moral that I do. And so then that brought us more into a deeper friendship. But it's so easy. The whole point of that long conversation was like, it was so easy for me to be a part of a community, but be a wall in the wall. Like I was still actively like producing or performing to be an active member of this community. But what was I really getting out of it instead of you know, I feel like I put more into it than I received.
Right.
But it was the nature of what it was.
Yeah. No, and I get that. I understand being in a place of like just needing to be in a place that you feel supported. It feels light. It feels fun. It's spontaneous. And just having a little bit of everybody there. But we have to be careful with about when we're in spaces where we're not intentional about our communities that we're in, is that it can either push us towards purpose or take us on a detour based on the proximity of the people that we have in our lives. You know, in previous episodes, we already talked about like how the things people are, the way people talk around you. And like, you can be like the leaders of leader and like, still you're influenced by the people that are around you, right? What they talk about, what they do, how they move, you know? And we just have to be more intentional. And I'm saying that because I'm in a season of like wanting to be more intentional now. about the community that we're in. And like, and you spoke about this a little bit earlier, but while thinking about intentionality of like who I want around me, I also have to think about how I'm showing up. And if I'm showing up at the level that I am requiring from the people, or have ambitions of like what I want to cultivate around me, and it's like, that's going to start with me, how I show up, and thinking about like what kind of friend am I? If somebody's describing their friend group and I'm in it, how am I being described? What are the attributes that I'm bringing to that friendship to make it be fruitful and lasting? And I think sometimes if we're honest with ourselves, like, I know for me, I'm like, I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better friend to people. I mean, I think I'm a good friend, but I think I have a lot of room to improve. And I think that sometimes, like for me, like personally, my life is it's so crazy sometimes. And I feel like with my really good friends, like I feel like I have the most, I hate to even say this, but I have like a lot of the most drama going on right now, as far as just like things that happen. I'd be like every time we talk, I'd be like, girl, you won't believe. And I hate being that friend. Like being that friend that's just like, I'm like, I really don't want to make this all about me. But I'm just like, I do want to talk to my friends about it. But then at some points I'm just like, you know what? Like, I hope I'm not taking up too much space in my friendships. And so I'm in that place right now of just like evaluating, what does it mean for me to be a better friend?
I think that's a good place. I think it's also okay to have different seasons where you're just like in relationships. Like sometimes you're the friend that needs more attention in that season. Just like relationships, like not at all times are the relationships just super equal. Like you give and you take, and when that works, it works. You know, and to say, evaluating what a good friend, that looks different for everybody. Yeah. A good friend for someone who is not interested in going deep is just someone who may show up. Like I realized in that season, I may have taken an old mentality of wanting to, came from a place where I had fostered for years my friendships, and then went to a place where nobody knew me, and may have came with that same mentality of fostering friendships but there's no playing ground. There's no rules of engagement. It's the wild, wild west. Yeah. And so I chose, and then that's the other thing is, I did have some friends that we stuck, like we gelled. Yeah. But I realized that even in those friendships, some of them I'm still to this day, like when I go to the Bay, I see them. Others, like when I say I was like low key, people thought we were best friends because we were together all the time. But then something happened, something was done. And in that, I didn't feel the need to address it. They never addressed it. And it just faded. Yeah. And it made, in reflection and going back, if I've always thought is like, were we really close? Yeah. Or was it just convenient for both of us?
But is there anything wrong with just people being seasonal friends? Like I think that there's a season sometimes where we have, like, everybody's not meant to stay in our lives. That's my personal opinion. I think maybe there was a time that you learned something from someone. They came in at a time where you needed them, but now it's time to move on. And maybe it was meant to be not to have that conversation. Because I think we've talked, I don't know if it was offline or on an episode, but there's like, if it wasn't for social media, we're like essentially not supposed to. Back in the day, people were never tied to this many people.
That was Theo Tim, I think.
Yeah,
like
Uncle
Ross.
Tim. Yeah,
Uncle Tim probably said that. I think he said like back in the day we'd sign the yearbook and be out, like, and never look back.
So it's like, yes, while we're supposed to be in community, are we holding on to too many people? And like it having an expectation of like, or this illusion of friendship has become somewhat of an illusion of like, okay, everybody that's on like who's following you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how many friends do you have that are following you? And it's like, because people keep in close proximity. They watch your stories all the time. They feel like, oh, and then they see you. Like, I've been experiencing lately, I see people in the streets, haven't seen them in years. And because they like watch my stories and something, it's almost weird like that. Like they come up and be like, oh my God, how's your kid? How's Cam, you know, like my child? And like, they've never actually met my child in person. Like, so it's just like this weird place that we're in right now.
I understand that. And I also believe that like social media has totally jaded our view on what friendship is.
Yeah.
Like and I wanted to like, back in the day, it was like, are you a friend? Are you an acquaintance? Are you the other? Are you like in the Bible, it's like, are you the disciple? Are you an apostle, a disciple, a follower? Like the crowd, right? Like the crowd was just people who were watching, right? Like they were watchers. And so like, I think about that, and I think about there's those layers in our personal lives, but nobody wants to be called an acquaintance.
No.
And that's
it's rude.
But is it rude?
I mean, I think it's socially awkward. If somebody were to hear you be like, hey, Trini, this is my friend Alex, and oh, here goes my acquaintance.
No,
and then
no, but you don't say it like that. So that's where I'm in this space of, we need to get back to that. Like being okay with acknowledging that someone may not be a friend, but maybe an acquaintance, an associate.
That's right.
Someone who we see here and there. Cause like, I think, you know, I have people in my life who would say friends come a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
You know, and even looking at like Tim Ross and Preston Morrison, like their friendship takes it to another level.
Yeah, it does.
Best friend goals, right? But they even mentioned like a lot of people don't get this in a lifetime.
They don't. So
when you think about that, and then you also bring in the dynamics of past, of living situations, of if you travel, if you move around a lot. I think we've talked about this, is like I've lived on multiple coasts. So like I may have had a close relationship. So to go to what you were saying, a close relationship with someone for a season, and then I move. It's not like the friendship ended on a sour note. I'm literally just moving to another state.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, do you keep in contact here or there? They may see you in the stories. They may go on your Facebook and say happy birthday, say happy anniversary, congratulate you, check in here and there. But the distance can be a barrier, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that understanding the different dynamics, it goes back to the topic of like, what does it look like to be a good friend? And then also being someone who used to be super social, and after COVID, I've kind of like shifted, going back out into the world. After I've shifted. And Janelle could tell you this, like she's been with me on the West Coast and on the East Coast, and I just know a lot of people.
It's crazy. Everywhere we go into, people are like, and not just saying like, oh, hey, Trini. They're like, Trini, like embracing you with a hug and like have this sense of closeness. It's beautiful, actually.
Because I invested time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even now in my life, I think about where have I invested time, and I feel like I don't regret the time that I've invested, but it's like, dang, I'm not really reaping the benefits of the invested time because of shifting priorities and a lot of movement.
What would reaping the benefits even look like in this respect?
Community.
So you don't feel like
a deeper community, like having, like we talked about, like you living in the Bay for 20 plus years. Like, so like you have everything from best friends to frenemies to people who you went to high school. Like it's all in one community. And so you navigate that, but you know, like if you're if you're in these streets, you have a community, you have people you could call on.
That's true.
And I'm not saying that I don't have that, but I don't have the longevity or the quote unquote loyalty, because sometimes that loyalty comes through time, right? So, but one thing I will say is I have seen how real connections are, distance is not a barrier.
Yeah.
Time is not, like,
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah.
And so I've focused, and that's something that, like, I realized, like, when I left Boston after divorce, I realized that I just cut people off. Like, these are people who I lived for 10 plus years and invested time, but because of hurt, I just cut everybody off.
And maybe I don't want to, like, speak for them. I don't know them. I did not know you then. But I would imagine that if I saw a friend going through a divorce and moved away, I don't think I would take that personal. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that feels different than what the felt sense than, like, what the imagined view is. But I think I would have grace for my friend if going through that kind of transition. And you don't feel like a lot of grace? Do you feel like a lot of grace wasn't given to you during that time?
I mean, I wouldn't know. I, like, bounced. Like, so I
so
legit.
so you still don't talk to them?
No, it's not like I don't talk to them. No, I think it's come full circle with some of those folks that, like, one of my current close friends who's been a friend for 20 years, right? But there was a gap. I think I was telling you this. There was a gap of when I left and a gap of when I was dealing and processing hurt. I couldn't, like, within that gap, I couldn't bring myself to talking to this person or reaching out, because I had a story. I had a story in my mind that I created based on hurt. Yeah. And I was like, I'm your friend. You chose him. What the heck?
That's real.
I'm out.
That's
like,
real though.
And so then through growing, through God transforming my heart, through forgiveness, you know, I was able to go to that person and apologize. And her story is completely different. Like, you left. Yeah. Nobody could get a hold of you. I'm like, the phone goes two ways, bro. Like, but the stories, right, that people have, but we were able to come back and say, no, we're sisters. Yeah. We're sisters and we love each other. We've been in each other's lives. And when we originally met, before marriage, before all these things, we decided that we were going to be sisters. Now, the rough patches, you know, did whatever they did, but we end up here and we're still in relationship. Yeah. But that's by the grace of God. That's also, I find that I told Janelle before, like, my whole life, I felt like I've always had to be the bigger person. And it wasn't until I got the revelation from God that, like, he said, you see farther. And I know this might sound a little cocky, but, like, no, it's not meant like that. It's more like you see farther, you see my purpose. And to have my purpose be met in your life, sometimes we have to humble ourselves and apologize. Yeah. Sometimes we have to say, I was wrong. Like, I legit didn't talk. Like, if you didn't reach out to me, if you did something ignorant, if you commented on his post and you were my friend,
oh, snip.
I was like, I deleted probably like 5,000 people on Facebook. Yeah. I was just like, you're all trash. Like, but I was like, you chose a side. And mind you, these are people who may have a different story as to why they did what they did. Yeah. But on my part, I felt like you only knew him because of me. Yeah. And you chose him. Yeah. And so, like, even now, like, going through the process of allowing God to transform my heart and allow me to learn how to forgive, as I'm forgiving, God is opening doors. I'm not forcing it, but God is opening doors for me to reconnect. Yeah. And in a way that is valuable and true to us. Now, granted, like, friendship when I was 20 is different than friendship in my 40s. And
100%,
like, people have families, people have kids, people have lives, people have events, jobs, like, you know, like, so we have to be intentional at this point.
Yes.
If we're actually going to interact and be around each other.
Absolutely.
And social media has helped us to see into people's lives, whatever they want to portray. Right. But doesn't really tell us what's going on truly. And so we can assume my friends or my acquaintances or the people who've been in my lives, everybody's good. And it's not until you realize, like, you see a post or they clear their whole Instagram of said person or said thing, and or maybe you run into them at the mall, that you realize, like, this person has completely transformed and changed. And so when we talk about, like, going into communities with an intention to reap the benefits of the community, but also give to the community, we also have to recognize, like, places of, to your point, of hurt, with, like, coming from a place of church hurt. When I went into a new church, I went with, like, guards up, guns up, like, I'm Gucci. Like, I'm here just to receive the word. Don't ask me to worship. Don't ask me don't ask me to volunteer. I'm good. Because for the prior 20 years of my life, I spent like giving all of me to the church, and the church literally dropped me like a bad habit.
Yeah. No, just thinking about, just a lot was touched on, and that I relate to. But it's interesting how, like, you talk about, like, my community of people and, like, the contrast of your experiences. And when I think about my community, I have, like, a lot of opposites of you. Like, I've had a lot of forgiveness. So exercise a lot of forgiveness with the people that have been around me. And so I think I was telling you the other day, to where I found myself, like, introducing everybody as, like, one of my best friends. Like, it's just like, oh, my best friend, oh yeah, that's another one of my best friends. I had to think to myself, like, girl, if all the friends, you know, like, how is everybody your best friend? And, like, has there been, man, I'm not saying too much forgiveness, but, like, there really essentially hasn't been many people that have been cut off, like, at all. So, like, while it does feel good to, like, be in community, I think there's still an aspect of, like, because you talked about, like, the closeness of, like knowing a lot of people everywhere, but not having the closeness of having community. I think you can still be in what appears to be like a community, and, like, but still lack the closeness. And sometimes in these spaces, and where you have to, like, look up and think, like, hey, I think we've been on cruise control. Like, I think we've been on cruise control with each other. And, like, can we go a little bit deeper? Or maybe it is, like, redefining, and, like, yeah, not everybody is my best friend. And what's the community that I need at this point in my life? Like, what does community need to be? Because what I needed in my 20s, what I needed in my teens, and what I need in my 30s, sometimes you have to sit back and think about it. Like, what do you need in a community right now, and what does that look like, and how do you cultivate that?
It's interesting because while you were talking, I was thinking about, like, a close friend of mine that I just adopted her best friends. And over time, and this is the thing, when everything is great, it's great. But then over time, I was like, oh, this is one-sided. Like, this is my close friend. And there were even times where, like, some of her friends would be like, oh, Trinidad doesn't like me, or she, you know, like, calling it out. And I'm just like, so do you want to be my friend, or are you just saying that when I'm around and you don't have the same type of relationship that I do with the person who's the common denominator? And so I got to a point where I realized, like, am I just befriending these people to satisfy someone else so that they can feel comfortable having us all around?
Yeah, just to, like, go with the collective.
The collective, or do I really want these people in my life? And then going to the extent of, like, I'm trying to be a friend and it's not reciprocated, so it kind of didn't make sense to me. And so I had to learn how to just, like, you know, Homer Simpson, when he's, like, just, like, backing into the bush and, like, going into the ghost.
I love
like,
that.
I'm literally, like, just evaporating, like, and had to be okay with being alone.
Yeah.
And so that was the other aspect is for so
mm-hmm.
long, I looked for companionship. I looked for community and would even like jump into community like head first. I was a part of like the group that went on Bumble to find friends. Like, so I was on Bumble and I was meeting other women.
Oh, wow.
And one of them, shout out to Angelica. We went to see Kendrick Lamar. Like she was great, but it was also like, what is we went to like, what are those things called where they like farmers markets and stuff like that. And it's crazy because probably like my friend Rich, shout out to Rich. He used to come visit me in California. And so he saw the communities that I was connected to, but I would love, maybe we'll bring Rich on into our Patreon group so he can talk to y'all about like his perspective. But it was interesting because he just would whoever I brought him around, like it's just, he would hang out with them and he's just very down to earth guy. But like, it's interesting if there's any of those, I would love to know if there's any of those people who was just like, absolutely not Trinidad. Like you were just doing the most and I was okay with it. Same thing with my friend Kenneth. He would always visit me once a year. And it always happened to be at the time when I had to move. So he was always caught up in a move. And but he also hung out with me in different areas. And what's crazy is like twice in my life, probably more, but I just wasn't aware. But twice in my life, I have people who I was close to. And because of something I did, they chose to cut me off. And no matter what I wanted to do to fix it, I couldn't. And it was gone. And so even getting to the point of understanding, like, what does it look like to mourn a relationship or a friendship and leave it be and not become a stalker or, need to get a whole restraining order because you can't see it ending.
Yeah.
So we brought up all these different examples, but even in the examples, I realized that it's still a work in progress. And I'm in a space, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm in a space of, actually you did say this already, but reevaluating all the different areas in my life of, how am I showing up in my relationship with others, with myself, with God? And is it coming from a healthy place? So even when I'm thinking about who I'm surrounding myself with, business, and I bring in business a lot because I'm an entrepreneur, but also I love leadership books and all that kind of stuff. But business talks about like you're the sum of the people who you hang around with, right?
And so
it makes me kind of hyper vigilant on like, who am I around? And like, what is their vision? Where are they going? And then also just being, connected to so many people from all over. It's like when I'm there, who am I around? When I'm here, who am I around? And am I manifesting different things based on my location?
Yeah. And one thing I thought about as you were talking about Bumble and all of that is also being careful that we're not afraid to be alone.
Oh, no, I was absolutely not okay with being alone.
Yeah. And that's one thing I am so okay with being alone. And like, but we already talked about that, like me feeling like just isolating myself. And, but yeah, like I'm one of those people that like, I need social breaks. Like I need when I get in social groups and I am tired. Like even the thought about going into like a social setting, like I'm almost like, all right, like I can do this, but like, how long? And so I think it's really healthy for us to check in and think about like, we need a balance of these things, right? Like, can we explore taking a little bit more alone time if we're not having much of any of it, or if we're alone too much, like also talking about how we can get into a community. So while community is great, I think it is so important for us to get comfortable just to ourselves as well. And so, and that's probably like a whole nother topic on our own about like, what are we running from when it's hard to be alone? And what are we afraid to be alone with? And just all of that.
What's interesting is I think although we've hit on a lot of examples and topics in this conversation, I think it does get us to thinking about who am I around, why am I around, what are my intentions, what am I expecting, and if anything, my hope is that this conversation jogs your memory, gets you to reflecting and taking the journal that you have and going into it and writing like what system or what is it called? Not routine or cycle that am I in? Is it a healthy cycle? Is it something that's serving me? And give yourself grace if it's not. Give yourself grace if it is, and allow the Holy Spirit into it to drive you in the right environments. You know, a lot of times we move in a way that best serves us. And I want us to be able to pull out enough to see if what we're doing to serve us is also serving the people that are involved. Because that could very well make or break the longevity of what's serving you. And then also think about ways that we could shift environments. If an environment is not working for you, stand back and be like, what is it about this environment that's not working for me? Is it the people, places, and thing? Is it me? And I think in all of our conversations, Janelle, we're always talking about like, is this me?
Yeah.
Is this something that is me? Is it something that is God? Is it something that is my soul, and it's something that's trauma? It's something from my past. Is it part of my programming? And just to really, our goal and desire is to live our best lives.
Right.
Our goal and desire is to be whole and healed. And so having these conversations, digging deep, I believe will bring us there.
Absolutely. I was just pulling up something on my phone and I sent you. So we watch like several sermons, like sometimes daily, more than one a day. But I sent you Pastor Jerry Flowers, I believe is his name, about the ways that you can create and understand and better evaluate the people that are around you and put them in different categories. He does this Therapy Thursdays things that I love. And so I'm just going to read some of these off, like as far as like homework and suggestions as we are ending out and you're doing your journaling. So there's 4 different categories of people. So you have partners, people who constantly evolve you. So that's 1. 2, you have parasites. I mentioned this in a previous episode, parasites. And these are, their survival is tied to draining you.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so 3rd is their projects, a person you simply help, not one you date. It specifically says that. That's 3rd. And then 4, pawns. People sent from the enemy to disturb your inner me.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so just thinking about, so as you're like thinking about evaluating and like redefining these relationships, I took this as homework for myself that I'm still trying to do and put people in these categories while we are in community and building the community and being intentional about the people that we're being around. So that was helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for you as well. So.
Well, I know I got you.
And I got you. And most importantly,
he got you. And so, Spirit of the living God, we ask that you cover this time, cover this conversation. I just lift up any person who is tuning in to this podcast that may feel a little bit disconnected or disingenuous, or may even be areas of their lives are being exposed right before their eyes. Yeah. Father, give them grace, give them mercy, send an angel to comfort them. Let them know that they're not alone. Yeah. Father, surround them with your love and draw them nearer to you, God, because in that place where you are, there's fullness of joy, there's healing, there's hope. And I pray, Father, that every word that we said, Father, that it will touch someone's heart and and that they will be transformed and renewed in you. And God, we are a work in progress. So Lord, also meet myself and Janelle in the process of evaluating life, evaluating friendships, evaluating how we show up or how we don't show up to certain environments. And I just pray, Lord, that you'll have your way. In the mighty name of Jesus. Please, 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 God, cover us. In Jesus' name, amen. I would say to share, subscribe. And if you're not in our Patreon group, join and walk on this journey with us. I just want to say thank you, Janelle, for today. And
thank you, girl. I love you.
I love you too. Let's get it.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.